much sure about it, but thinking of getting into IP, or there any entrepreneurs over here who want to go ahead with IP? See, everyone talks about IP, but how do you approach IP? How do you go ahead with filing a trademark? What are the right questions to be asked? Whom do you approach? What research that you as an entrepreneur should do before approaching an IP? So I don't want to go more on the theory, the more on section wise. Of course, sections are very important. The Trademark Act is very important. The process is very important. But let alone all of this, even though the pillars of trademark law, but the practical side is a whole different area of it, and not many touch upon it or talk about it. So for me today, I'll just give a gist of theory part, and then it's completely going to be on the practical side of it. Okay, so let us begin. So before you even think of filing, so yes, so there are two sections that everyone has to be aware of. That is section 9 and 11. So you can take this as what can be or what cannot be trademarked. Okay. So as a founder, also as a IP aspirant who wants to get into trademark, please do understand these points, because if even if someone asks you if this can be trademarked or not, you'll have the basic knowledge to say that okay, this can be trademarked or not, so you'll be confident enough on that. Generic names, let's say that you have a dairy product, but even if you have a dairy product, you cannot use milk in the name. And another aspect being a descriptive marks, that being, now if you have an ice cream, you cannot name it a cold and creamy, because you're talking about the quality, the purpose, the value of it. And then we're going to talk about the common trade. The common trade again cannot. Suppose, let's say that you have, again, example over here is packed foods. In this packed foods, you cannot keep something as the name as premium quality. Again, because you're describing it. Then marks which are misleading. Let's say that, again, we have given an example over here, which is if you have a honey product, if you're selling honey, but it is, and you're naming it as pure honey, but whereas you are not selling pure honey, it's just added sugars in it. Again, that is misleading and that will not be accepted. And the marks which hurt religious sentiments. There have been multiple cases where, see, there are certain, you cannot use certain idols or God's name with attached to certain products or certain kind of services. 2 years ago, there was a case where someone would use Lord Ram's name in association with an alcohol brand, which got severe punishment as well, which went into a lot of like back and forth with lawsuits and well. So that is not advisable, and that is, even if you file it, you get rejected immediately. Then scandalous or obscene matter. Again, you cannot use foul languages when you're naming a trademark. You cannot use obscene images as well as your logos. So please understand that these are what cannot, which cannot go ahead as trademark. Okay. Then another is identical or dissimilar. So these 2 points over here likely cause confusion. Is basically leading to infringement of the mark. I think many of you must have seen that there's Adidas, and then there's brands you see as Adidas. There's Bisleri, and then you see Billeri. So even if you're trying to go ahead with any of the marks which is similar to any other mark in the market, please don't do so. It will get rejected immediately. So this is a very basic understanding of what the section says. And then I'll just quickly go through the process. Now, speaking about the process, trademark registration, first you need to do a TM search, which I will talk about in detail in next. After you do a trademark search, you'll see if your name is available or not. You file the application. Once you file the application, it'll either get accepted or it'll get objected. Objected, why? Because you'll get an examiner report. In that, it'll tell you, the report is from the ministry, will tell, okay, what name you have given me, there's similar suffix and prefix already registered. Why should I let you go ahead with your mark? And the way you justify or you reply to that, if the ministry is satisfied, they will leave it to get acceptance. If they're not satisfied, there'll be a hearing where virtually you have to attend that hearing and try to convince the officer. If you convince them, if they're satisfied, it goes into acceptance, and not your trademark application is rejected as a whole. After acceptance, within a week, it gets public. It gets published in the journal publication. Over here, it will be available to everyone, to the public eye. Okay, so it'll be here for 4 months. And now why 4 months? Because it's giving opportunity to any other third party if they want to oppose or they don't want to oppose. Let's say that I publish a mark, my mark gets published, and some other person who already has a trademark with similar suffix or prefix feel like, oh, this mark is really much similar to mine. This person mark should not get published. That is when you can come and oppose it over here. So after that is done, if in that four, and that goes into another process, that's the opposition process, which is a complete other process altogether. But in that 4 months, if there's no opposition as such, then it will get registered. I hope the process is clear with everyone over here. Now going to the next step, that is lock your brand identity first. Now when we go ahead with this, now even if you are someone that, as I said, as you are a student, or if you're going ahead and you want to get trademark done with you, if you have future clients as such, or you're in the position, or if you want to go ahead in this IP profession, or even if you're an entrepreneur right now and you're seeing this, first thing is lock your brand identity first. Before, I have seen clients go ahead and invest so much money into brand marketing, packaging of products, website development with the name that they just decided but did not think of getting it registered or even apply for it first. So what I would tell every brand is, keep four options. The first name that you really want, and the other three options that you feel like, okay, if the first name doesn't work, I can go with other three names. So keep four to, like, as I said, backup options you have to keep. Once that is done, do a basic trademark search, which is non-negotiable. Always do a basic trademark search. Before you do a trademark search, you should now figure out which class you come into. Okay, so I've put the website over here. It's called the Europa. So Europa website is the main website for niche classification. Okay, niche classification. This website, if you go and in the search box, let's say that you have a clothing brand. You say I sell t-shirts under this mark, so I'll write t-shirt in the search bar, and it'll tell you come under class 25. It's a very simple process. You can come to know which class you are in, or what product, which product and services your class falls under. Please do not go and use ChatGPT for understanding class. It's my request. It's not always correct. Please use Europa. This is the most authentic niche classification search database. I use this for all of my clients, and most of the trademark attorneys use the same website for determining which class it falls under. So once you determine your four backup names and your class, this is good enough. If you're a business entrepreneur, if you figure out these two on your own, then if you proceed to go ahead with any IP person, at least you'll be well prepared. And as a IP profession, or if you are a student, so these are the two basic things you need to know. And now I'll just give you a brand example. So there is this beauty brand called DU. Okay, they usually sell all this skincare item, like products like sunscreen, moisturizer, and everything. Why I'm putting them over here is because if you look at their YouTube or their social media page, they are the only brand which talks more about IP protection. They do not talk more about the marketing. They talk how they invest into IP and building the brand. Now, if you go with any product that you have right now, they will spend 6 months into, sorry, they will spend 6 months into R&D, making a formula. After the product is developed and they're ready to go into market, they will keep four options. This is exactly what they did with this brand called Unkissed. This is a sunscreen actually. So what they did is they kept four names. The first name that they wanted to make was something called as Frostbite. Okay, first bite they tried, but then under class 6, which is under for beauty products, they're getting that name. Already somebody had registered it. And then they're like, okay, this name is not available. They tried other two options. That also they didn't get. The fourth option, which was Unkissed, that was available. And then they applied that in 2023, as you can see, application date. And then they got it. Now it is a registered trademark name. And again, I put the trademark search website here as well. So as you can see, this screenshot is from the trademark website as well. So if you can also search, if you go put class 3 and then put the name that you want. Now, if you put Unkissed, you will get this because already taken. Nobody else can go with this name right now. The same way I would suggest for Any brand that wants to go ahead with trademark, please keep few options ready. Please know how to determine which class you are in and how to do a trademark. So these steps are the very basic things. Okay, now let us go to the next. Now, other thing that we need to keep, see, now what we have to understand is applications. There are few types of applications are there. One is proposed to be used, another one is user claim. Okay, so what is this two types of application that is there? Proposed to be used. Let's say that you are having a product that you're developing, but you're not sure when it will come out. Okay, so you're not sure when will the sorry, you will not sure when the product will come out, but you're just developing it. It's taking a few months time, but you have a very unique name in your mind. That is when you decide, okay, let me at least file an application for the trademark so that no one takes this in the meanwhile. That is when you go for proposed to be used, or you file for pre-launch. I think you must have seen this. There's so many celebrities. When they are about to launch their own brand, they will already trademark it before doing a like a pre-launch on Instagram or even revealing any product. Now, I'll just give you an example. Just a month back, there was this new athletic cloth wear active, which was it's called the Mile Collective by Samantha Prabhu. So what she did is she did not disclose anything about the product. She was just wearing it, but never told that this is her brand. And then just a month before, she just put on Instagram that this is my brand coming out. And when I checked it, she had already filed the trademark 3 months before it. So this is well planned it before. What happens is if someone very well known is going to launch a product, there's high chances as soon as you launch it, someone will try to copy it or secure the name. So it is always best to go ahead and file a trademark and get the name secured. So that is when you can use a proposed to be used. The other option that is there is user claim, or I would say user first date of user claim. Let's say that I have a brand and I started in 2024, January 1st. And now my brand is becoming much more popular and people are noticing, but I'm not filed a trademark and I'm getting worried. So now in 2026, as of March 28th, I want to file a trademark. So when I want to file a trademark, I can use when I started it. I started in 1st January 2024. But can I file it on this date? I need to show one invoice. Let's say that my first client took it on that day. So I will use that as a evidence and file a trademark. So that is how you can go ahead with filing with user claim. Whenever you're saying a date, make sure you have certain kind of evidence to back it up. Either it can be an invoice, or it can be a purchase order, or it can be your GST registration, anything as such where there's a date and your company's name or your logo of the mark is mentioned, then that will be sufficient enough to file a trademark. So I hope that this you all have understood that there are two types of trademark applications that you can file. Okay, now let me go to the next point. Drafting of a trademark application. So when it comes to the most practical understanding is how do we file a trademark application? Everyone keeps asking me that how can we file a trademark application? See, to file an application, either proposed to be used, you can file it, or you can file it with user affidavits. So a user affidavit is one of the key applications that you can use. Sorry, just a second. Yes. So how can we file an application is, so when you're filing a trademark application for prior use, not proposed to be. See, when you're filing, you need few documentation. You need either an incorporation certificate from the person, or you need an MSME certificate and the logo along with it to file the application. And user affidavit, when you're filing with a user affidavit, what you need is, see, it's this just as part of a lawyer, you need to draft the user application. So when you're drafting the user of, it's just like how you're drafting a plaint, right? When you're drafting a plaint, you put the introduction, then you put the facts of the case, then what is the issues. That is how you draft it. Same way you need to draft. Same way you need to draft this as well when you're filing for a user affidavit. You need to get all the information from the client, like invoices when they first started, the commercial, then packaging of the product, advertisements, if they have any websites, they have any social media, then any other press related formats. When you have all of this, then you can start using it. History of it, when did they start using, what is the nature of the services, what is the mark that you're using, what is the color combination of the logo that they have, what is the font style, how does it look, is it artistic, and the nature of the use since when you're using, and continuous use. What happens is certain people file for a trademark on a specific date and they never use it at all. So the ministry will ask you, if you have applied for this, are you continuously using it? Are you commercially utilizing this mark? Then you can show certain invoices. If I applied in 2023, then I can show certain purchase orders from 2024, 25, 26, or social media presence to show that I am continuously using the mark as such. So yes, this is one aspect of it. So once you draft this application, you can show it with the client if they're okay with it. And if they're fine with it, then what you can do is you can print it on a green legal paper. After your printing is done, then you can attach it with a stamp paper. In Karnataka, it's around 100 rupees per stamp paper, and it depends on state to state the price. And then you can go ahead and file it with the trademark ministry. And this is very important, because if the stamp paper value is not correct as per your state, they can reject it as well. So please be very careful, because if this is done properly, the chances that the objection arises will be less, because the ministry, because the examiner, everything is clear in front of him, everything is kept in a very systematic manner. He does not have any much confusion, so that he can give you acceptance much easier. So this is one part. Now going next. Yes, TM, when TM and R. So I get this question a lot. When can I start using TM? When can I start using TM, or when can I start using R? So TM, as soon as you file the application on top of your logo and your mark, you can start using TM. And registration R, you can only convert it into R, replace it with R once it gets registered. So I hope this part, and you cannot use R on your logo if it's not registered. If not, that's actually an offense doing so, and it can be punished as such. And yes, next is filing in India enough. Now, it is very well understood that if you file for a trademark in India, the trademark law can only provide you protection within the jurisdiction of India. Trademarks is very territorial based rights. So if you're operating only in India, you do not plan to scale abroad or anywhere, and your brand visibility is only within India, then yes, getting a trademark registered within India can be helpful. You don't have to go to any other countries. But then if you plan to export and sell, if you plan to export and sell internationally as such, then you might have to get into getting your trademark registered abroad. If your brand is also having a very nice, if your Instagram audience is more abroad based and people are asking if they can purchase it outside of the country, if your website is available across worldwide in other certain countries where you are selling, then we would suggest you to go and get trademark internationally. And there are many copy, and the thing is, if you're selling in one country, and see, the thing is, the other countries start copying them as well. And if you feel that is increasing over there, you can go ahead and put your trademark registration in that specific country. Now, how can you file a international trademark application? Now, it is also important for even business entrepreneurs, even looking at this right now, that you there are two types of applications that you can file. One is a Madrid Protocol application. Another one being is a national based application. So even if you're an entrepreneur right now and you want to go ahead with international filing but don't know how to approach, so this can be important even for law students as well. So these are the two options that that is available. So one is Madrid Protocol. So what happens is, uh, so if you file an application in India right now, so that will be your central application. So you're filed in India as of today. And then let's say that you want to file in other 10 countries as well. So that is when you file with the Madrid application. Madrid application will keep the Indian application as the main central point. And along with that, you can file for how many ever countries you want. Let's say I want to file for 10 countries. I file for 10 countries along with it. And the other process that is there is to file individually with the national country. Let's say that I want to file in the UK. So what I do is I appoint a UK counsel, and he will do the filing for me, and he will take care of all the office actions and everything. That is individual filing with the respective country national and attorney. So that's a different process itself. Now, as someone who is practicing in this IP sector for some time, what I would suggest is, or what I suggest my clients when they want to file an international application, I would not go ahead with Madrid Protocol. I would not tell them to file with one application, file for 10 different countries. I would tell them to file 10 different individual applications as such. Why? Because the thing is, as I said, you keep the Indian application as the central part over here, and then you keep the other 10 countries as the connected applications. Why I'm doing this is because, see, if the Indian, as I said, it's one of the main central part. If my Indian application gets refused, withdrawn, or cancelled, it'll affect the other 10 country applications as well. That is high chances of happening. Even though if you have good chance of getting trademark in the other 10 countries, because of your central application being weak, you're risking the other 10 applications as well. So I would never suggest a client to go forward with this. And also the other point that is happening is, even though we are filed in other 10 countries with the help of Madrid Protocol, each country will take their own time. They will take their, or they'll have their own procedure, they'll have their own protocols and everything. So when I file a Madrid application, I will get, as the attorney, I will get all the, I will have to attend the hearing. I will have to look into timelines. I will have to see in which country what issue is there. And that can create a lot of jumble. See, as someone who is working in IP sector, specifically in India, I would be much comfortable in working in my expertise. There are very few lawyers within the country that are qualified lawyers, that are qualified lawyers with multiple countries. Rather, I would appoint someone who is very well versed with that law, who is legally appointed to attend all the hearings on our behalf in that nation, and can know the procedure and the protocols, who know the office actions, the timelines, because that's much safer. Because chances is, if you give one national attorney all the 10 countries, there are high chances there can be some mishaps, dates can be missed, important timelines can be messed up, and as well as uh, uh, you can get refused in one country or the other. So I always say that to go ahead with individual countries when you're filing. And the only drawback over here can be, is what I feel, is the cost, because in Madrid, with one application, you're able to file for 10 other countries. So it's much cheaper. But whereas for national filings with 10 other countries, you have to individually bear the cost for the 10 other countries as well. So it's on the higher end. So that's one of the drawbacks over here. And I'll go to the next part now. Yes, so these are some of the rapid fire myths that I get. So these questions I usually get from clients before filing for a trademark. If the domain is available, trademark is safe. So I get this a lot as well. So if I have acquired my domain name, that means, if I got my domain names, if I purchase it, so even the trademark will be safe. No, domain registration and trademark registration are complete different things. If your domain name is available, does not mean the trademark, the name that you want to trademark, will be available. That's first thing. Small businesses don't need trademark. This is again a big misconception. So what I heard is, they say that big businesses, the multi-made businesses, are the one that are getting affected the most. But it's actually the opposite. It is the small business owners that get affected the most. What happens is, when small business owners start, They start on social media platform. They start with small advertisement platform on Facebook and stuff. And that is when people start copying them because they know they have a very small scale budget, so they cannot go ahead and sue them. So that is when they get affected the most. And small business owner, I would also suggest that keep a certain budget separately only for IP, or even just fight for a propose to be used if you're starting out, because it is better to start now than getting affected legally and then again rebranding. So yes, small business owner do need trademark the most at the very beginning stage, I would suggest. And then logo registration equal to name protection. No, that's not possible. So in trademark, there are two types of application. One is uh, a device mark registration. Another one being device matlab, it's the logo, and the name being now in the chat box. If I just put dairy milk, so that's a word mark. There's just the word over there, just plain text. It does not have a color combination or a logo, artistic work. That's just a plain name. So if you're getting your company logo registered and not the word, that means you're only protecting the artistic work. So someone else, if they use your aesthetics of your brand logo, then you can sue. But if they're using your name, then you won't be able to sue. You'll have to protect the name as well. Then this is one of the most big questions that I always get: is company name is secured, so even trademark name will be secured? So I get many clients who come and tell me that they registered their company under MCA. They tried a lot. First, the first option they did not get under MCA, and after so many decisions, then they got their MCA name registered. So they thought that that itself will be securing the name, but no. If you're getting your MCA under the if you're getting the MCA name registered, that does not mean that even the trademark name is registered. MCA name availability and trademark name availability are two different things. So yeah, so if someone is saying that they have got a private limited LLC or LLP registered in a certain name, does not mean that the trademark name will be available as well. So so yes, coming to the next part is I'm going to explain a few setbacks that we have in trademark law. So these setbacks are something that we as a community has experienced in IP, and most of us are experienced this. So one of the major trademark setbacks in India, I would say, is the timeline. And why do I say timeline is because, as I had showed that a trademark flow chart, right? Like how the process is. If I file an application today, according to the law, I should get the examination report within 4 months or such. But these days, the amount of trademarks, that's what the ministry says. They say that the application number has increased so much that they're not up to give the reports or they go to the next stage within time. So now to even go to the next stage takes around 1 year, and that's one of the setbacks, and also difficult as a IP profession sometimes to convince clients why it takes so much time. The minimum time that when you apply for a trademark and to get a trademark should be around 1.5 years. But now it has come to a certain uh, uh, now it has come to a certain extent that even after 3-4 years, the application is still stuck. It is not moving at all. And we as lawyers also have, we have written many letters to the ministry, but it is still not moving on. But we hope that in future it does, and there are more IP centers open up, more headquarters open up, and the trademark application can be much smoother. But yes, even if you are a business partner right now, if you are an entrepreneur, and if you want, that is why we always tell people to apply your trademark as soon as possible, but because it's going to take around 2 to 3 years before you get your trademark. So if you're just starting out, or if you're a business owner who don't know much about trademark, get it done, because the time period is going to be long. If you apply today, only then you will get your trademark after 2 to 3 years minimum. That's how the situation is. So this is one of the setbacks, the timeline. Other one being is false advertising and misrepresentation. This is actually a growing concern, and this I myself has faced, and many other uh, clients have faced of mine. So if you are IP professionals right now and you are as I said, you are learning IP. So this is something that you should also be aware. And any business entrepreneurs over here is, please do listen to this carefully, because this will help you a lot than falling prey for this, because there are many such false representation happening right now in India. So guaranteed registration, you should always see if someone is saying you guaranteed registration, that is one of the major red flag. We as IP professions, as an IP attorney, I cannot guarantee your trademark. We can only assist you, guide you to filing a trademark application. The sole discretion of you getting a trademark registered is purely with the IP ministry and the trademark ministry. So if you see anyone approaching you saying that we guarantee give you a trademark registration, that is the first major trademark red flag that you can see there. So please don't go fall for that. Other misleading practices that we often see is extremely low fees they would be charging online. So the minimum fees that a trademark application when you're filing will be 4,500. If someone is promising you that they can file it within 2,000 rupees, 1,000 rupees, please do not fall for it, because the minimum filing charges with the ministry itself is 4,500. So if you see this, please don't fall for this. That's again a misrepresentation, and it is misleading practices again. What happens is, yes, there are many cases I've been who say they 4,000 rupees, and then they do not file the first stage properly. So because of which they get objected at every stage. So because of which they have to pay fees again and again, and that is how they scam small business owner or who was not much aware of IP. As I said, this always happens with someone who's, as I said, if you're a small business owner, if you're looking for something in a very smaller range in your own budget, there are IP professions, IP Mitra is also there. There are many people who will help you file for trademark at a very good advice, and also very cost effective prices as well. Please do not fall for online advertising agencies, is what I would suggest. Important checks. Now, as I said, the practical aspect, as a brand owner, what you can do is you can do a trademark search and you can see which class. Please make yourself aware of this before, if you're approaching any IP profession and you're not aware of how their practice is. At least if you do your own research before going, and what advice they give matches with your research, it'll gain your confidence as well. So I always say that do your homework before you approach any profession as well. See the trademark, see what class you fall under and what kind of applications you want to file. And whenever you're going for a trademark profession, ask them if you can give me a trademark search report, verify their experience in past registration, ensure proper guidance before filing. So whenever you're approaching any IP expert, please do ask a search report in advance, I would say. Because in IP, I'll tell you like who can file a trademark application. An trademark attorney, one lawyers can file a trademark application. A trademark agent who has passed the qualification of trademark agent examination, they can file a trademark. And then also a CA also can file a trademark. And then even a proprietor, even a business owner as you can file for a trademark as a proprietor if you have a digital signature. So these four people can file a trademark for you. So it can be anyone, but then again, see if they're very much well versed, if they're properly guiding you. Sometimes, even in the search report, if there's similar name, for the sake of money, they'll tell you to go ahead with registration, and they will not advise you properly. So that happens a lot. So please do your own trademark search and see if there's name available or not. Because as I said, this I've seen clients because they wasted 2 to 3 of like even 4 years time because of such scam. As I said, the timeline is really lengthy these days. It's take minimum is 2 to 3 years. So before investing in IP, please do your own research. See a proper professional before getting into this, and do not fall for these scams that are happening. And this is just not told by me. As you can see, this is actually a public notice. If you want, you can actually take a picture of this. This is a public notice given by the government of India, intellectual property of India as well, because the scams were increasing so much that they actually had to list out certain companies that are doing these misleading and misrepresentation and filing trademark for a very cheap. But again, and also as lawyers we cannot advertise. That's one of the thing. As lawyers we cannot, you will not see me saying I will give you trademark registration 100% sure on Google ads. If you see that, that's a major red flag, that's itself. And many of these companies that they've listed here have done that. So please be aware, even as IP professions who are in IP right now, who are learning, who are interested in IP right now, please be mindful of this. Even if you see anyone, if you see any business owner struggling to get their IP, please guide them. Please tell them to go to a proper IP profession and not online scams. Because the first thing that you'll do is, how can I file a trademark in Google? It'll show you these sites. So again, please do be careful on that. And now, yes, I will conclude right now by saying that uh, so it's been a very so thank you again so much for everyone for joining. In the end, I would suggest by saying that yes, IP awareness in India is actually before, at least to now, nowadays is much better. People are aware about IP as such, and trademark, copyright, patents, and designs. Before it was not so much. So the awareness is increasing. It also has to increase right now more. People has to be aware of it. And I always say that yes, I understand that IP filings and all can be an expense for certain businesses, but I always suggest that keep a certain budget only for IP, so that you can file the problem, because IP is one of the pillars. If it falls, then the entire brand. I have seen brands that have, as I said, they have done the whole marketing, packaging, branding, everything is done, and once cease and desist notice for trademark infringement, they had to spend lakhs together just to rebrand and go with the brand name again. So I again I'm saying that trademark, treat it as an asset. It is an intangible asset. It is not an expense. You're only adding more value to your brand. So yes, IP is one of the most integral part for any brand that wants to come up today, especially in this day and age where copying can be very easy with AI as well. So yes, I'll conclude my PPT here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was a very insightful session. Shall we begin with the Q&A session now?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So first up, we have one of our international participants, Lilyani, who's
Yeah.
asking, "What's the major problem where mostly IP professionals face while doing trademark?"
Sorry, I didn't get you.
I said, "What is the major problem the mostly the IP professionals face while doing the trademark?"
IP professions while doing a trademark, like as I said in IP. So the thing is, in India specifically, we do not have a lot of IP related career focused individual a lot. As you said, there's a lot of corporate, there's a lot of capital marks. But when it comes to IP focused law firms, they're not many. They're very selective few. As I would say that IP is actually very much of a niche of an area. And what's problems that we can face is mostly, as I said, the IP ministry itself is so short on staff. There's a lot of trademark filing delays. There's a lot of setbacks as that as well. So yeah, that's what I think.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Then Riya Yadav here is having question. In today's digital world, where brands grow rapidly through social media and global platforms, how can businesses effectively protect their trademarks across different jurisdictions, also while managing cost and legal complexity?
So as I said, if you're having, so as I said that today, these days, what brand do is, so before we had all billboards, TV advertisements as such. But now in day and age, what happens is, now we have trademark. And so we have like Instagram reels. That's where most of the advertisements happen, right? You see a reels for an influencer, and that is when you go and try to see these brands. So that's how the advertisement is going on. And how brands would say, as I said, before you launch your brand online, first get a proposed to be based trademark application filed. Whether you're in India or in outside country, please file an application as soon as possible before you go on social media itself. And then multiple jurisdictions, as I said, you can file through a Madrid protocol, or you can go from a, or you can file with a national based, with a respective country itself individually, you can file. And it can be complicated, like I understand, if you file in one, if you are having, there are always going to be certain copycats. There's always going to be some sort of copying in one country or the another. The best way you can do, if you say that if you have a product here in India and you feel that the most copying is coming out of US or from any other country or in UK, you file your IP there immediately and try to take action on it. So yeah, that's the.
Thank you, ma'am. Alok here is having a question. If a brand discovers infringement online, like on Instagram platform or any other e-commerce platform, what is
Hmm.
the most effective step-by-step enforcement strategy in practice?
So, as someone, so this is to understand when you're registering your brand on any e-commerce website. Let's say that Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra. If you have an Amazon, let's say that you have a pickle company, and that pickle company you want to sell on Amazon, Flipkart. It's these two e-commerce websites. So what happens is Amazon is also very strict because Amazon also sees a lot of infringement as well. So in Amazon, there's something called as brand registry. So as soon as you put your pickle company, this is my pickle company, this is the pickles that I'm selling, Amazon will ask you a trademark application number. Without trademark application number, you cannot sell your items on Amazon at all. So once you give that application number to the Amazon ministry, it will send a verification code. It will send a verification code to either your trademark agent or someone who filed it. Suppose, let's say my client is selling a pickle company, and he has put his items on Amazon itself. And then I will get the verification code. I will give that verification code to my client, and then then Amazon will confirm, okay, this is a genuine person who has filed this trademark. He is the owner of this trademark, and he is selling this on the Amazon ministry. And if at all, if Amazon comes to know that there's someone else with the same logo selling as yours, Amazon will automatically deactivate them from the e-commerce website itself. So that's how strong it has become these days on e-commerce. And in general also, if you see anything on Google, anything as infringing, there are always certain report options that you can get to go ahead and file a report or infringing mark as such these days. If not, then what we can do is we try to identify who is the owner, who is the seller, get the details, and we can send them a cease and desist notice. Ideally, e-commerce websites, you can if you have your brand registry done through Amazon, then it's actually taken care of. They only kick out the person who is infringing you. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Another one here, one of the participants is asking, what is the difference between trademark search in Europa website and IP India website?
So Europa search, like as I said, Europa is not a trademark search. So Europa, if we just take, let's say that I sell toothpaste. Okay, I go to Europa and I just put in the box Europe toothpaste in the search box. It'll tell me which class I fall under. If I put t-shirt in Europa search box, it'll tell me, okay, t-shirt is falling under class 25. So you remember that it is in class 25. Then you go to IP India search. It'll ask you brand name and class. Say I want to name my shirt company as Blue Heaven. I put Blue Heaven and then I put the class 25. Then the trademark IP search will tell me if there's any similar names to Blue Heaven in class 25 or not. So that is the main. Europa is to only determine which class you fall under, whereas trademark IP search, it will tell you what are the similar marks or same marks under the name and the class that you provide. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Another one of the participants have a question. Just a second, ma'am.
Sure.
Uh, how do the courts currently treat well-known trademarks under Section 11 of the Trademarks Act, and is the protection truly robust in practice?
How trademarks, well-known trademarks are protected, is it?
Yeah. How the currently the courts treat the trademarks under Section 11?
Section 11, that is one of the absolute grounds. So for even being a well-known trademark, you have to be very distinctive. There are not many well-known trademarks that have been filed in India. There are only very specific well-known trademarks that are filed within India. Uh, there are very less to count. So let's say that if you are having a well-known trademark, like say Bisleri is one of the well-known trademark, and there's something other, like as I said, there are other like Bileri, there are many duplicates as such. So the one benefit of getting a well-known trademark is you don't have to go through a lot of litigation or opposition matters. If you have the status of a well-known trademark, you can, there's again, that's a whole other litigation process where you can go for counterfeit, you can file for counterfeits, they can come and seize the products as such. So it makes your steps even more easier, because if you don't have a well-known trademark, you'll have to go with file a suit, and that's going to take entire process to confirm if your brand is so well known or if it's even distinctive, and then we can go seize and counterfeit. But if you have a well-known trademark, it becomes easier to capture and seize counterfeit products.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Another participant is asking, what are the emerging risks for a brand protection in the era of AI generated content?
Now, for AI generated content, what I would say is, so for trademark, so even though now in trademark we have, there are not much filters that we have. Even now, see, the thing is, if you go and put trademark journal, even today, if you check trademark journal, I'm seeing a few AI generated images being published or even being accepted. That being said, is even being accepted and getting into trademark. Is also getting trademarked these days. So that's one thing that I have noticed. As of the ministry side, there's nothing as such that taken a step to identify AI related products. But whereas to copyright, if you come with AI products, it will get rejected because there is no author or owner in that. It is AI that is making it. So there's very much chances that AI can also make a similar product again and develop that with just few tweaks and give it to some other person. So with copyright, you cannot go ahead with AI, because whom are you going to put as the owner or the author for that copyright image? No one. If you put AI, it'll get rejected as that. It has to be a natural person or a natural entity. Whereas for trademarks as such, there is no filter as of now. Even I've seen a few getting published, but that's again on the ministry's discretion on what they're doing.
Okay, ma'am, got it. Here, another participant is asking, as previously advised by you in the session, that it is always preferable to choose individual filing than the Montreal Protocol. But how do we be able to ensure that while sitting in India? How to coordinate with how to coordinate them from here? For example, any local objections there?
Yeah. So what happens is, let's say that I have clients who wanted to get trademark done in the US. So what I do is I have one of my colleagues. So one of my colleagues is a US attorney. He is a US attorney and he's a certified US attorney as well as a trademark agent. So we coordinate accordingly through mail. So that's again to coordinate individually. Let's say that my client wants to file in US, so I tell my US attorney to file the US or US application on behalf of my client. So if he has any documentation required, I ask my client, I provide it to my US attorney. On basis of that, he files the application and he keeps me posted whenever there's any objection that arises. So if any objection arises, he alerts me and he sends me the notice, and I communicate that to the client as well. And he tells me what is the next step. So that is how you can do back and forth communication and keep updated on any office action. The only thing that you have to make sure is your communication line with the US attorney is clear, and that is a trustworthy person, because sometimes you only meet them to face. So if you go through a mutual connection, or if you know someone who has worked with a US attorney before and they have done their trademarks, I would suggest you to go with them. They will help you much better. So most of the law firm in India, they do that, basically called outsourcing the work. You get clients, because sometimes clients in India, they want to get trademarked in US, but they don't know anyone in US. That's why they approach you thinking that you might know someone in US who can file a trademark for them. And that is how you coordinate. So any office action that arises, so even if any office action that arises, the attorney itself will take care of all the hearing, because we are giving them the power of attorney. Even right now, if any office action arises hearing, I have taken the power of attorney of my client, so I attend the hearing on my behalf, of my client's behalf. So same with the US as well. So it's done pretty easily. It can be coordinated.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. And last question for this session. What is the one thing about trademark practice that is never taught in law school, but it is very crucial in real cases?
Um, so I feel. So when I was in law school, for us, trademark was just taught like, as I said, basic examples that, you'll see duplicates of that. That is the trademark. It's just the practical aspect is what shocked me after I stepped into working. So as soon as I finished my law school, when I started working at ALMT, I found it much more challenging, because whatever I studied, that was just 10% of it. But how you file a trademark, how do you communicate with the client, what all details you require, and what all you have to pinpoint while drafting, this all law school does not teach you in detail. This will So I feel in law in general, when you're a law school, it's just 10% of what you will use in practicality. It's not much. Only when you step into the shoes of working, when you get practical experiences, only you'll understand that it's so much of what you study in law school is not even applicable over here. It's a whole other part. As I was explaining even today, like the timeline process, I did not know, because according to the books, trademark you should be getting a trademark done within 1.5 years, when actually it's taking you more than 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And user affidavit drafting, how you draft an application, how do you even apply to become a trademark attorney, that and all, nothing is taught in law school. That you have to learn on your own when you are the practical aspect is very much different, but I would say it's also fun. I had a lot of fun while also learning, because this was so much different than all the other aspects of law. I found IP to be much more fruitfully. I found IP to be much more fun in
Interesting.
learning, I would say, than all the other aspects of law that I've tried. Because it's fun sometimes to see all these cases that come up. How do you tackle them, the strategies? So yeah, I would suggest that to all IPS friends, that please do get into the sector. Right now, it is blooming. Since the now AI has come up, so people will understand how much IP actually means. This tech law actually means. It's actually blooming. The next 10 years, it'll actually bloom a lot. So please do stick on to it and do explore it. I know the starting few years can be tough, but then don't give up on it, I would say.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your valuable thoughts and knowledge and practical insights with us today. I would also like to extend my sincere gratitude to Mr. Ayush Gaurav and the entire Law Jurist team for organizing this informative session. And a heartfelt thank you to all the participants for joining us today and making this webinar a success. We hope you leave this session with better clarity, practical understanding, and confidence in the field of intellectual property law. Lastly, we also request the participants who have not yet filled the feedback forms, please do fill it from the chat. And your feedback is very valuable to us. Also, it's mandatory receiving the participation certificate. Thank you once again, and thank you so much, ma'am. We all learned a lot from you today.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Kind words. Thank you.